Don't leave me hanging. It's go time.
Hey everybody, welcome to another fantastic game of StarCraft 2. This one's being played once again between EG.IdrA, actually a member of Quantic Gaming now and not Lazarus Gaming. He is the pink Protoss way over here on the left side of Shattered Temple. His opponent here in Game 2 of this Best of 3 series is Evil Genius's IDrA. He's the blue Zerg on the far right, so we do have a cross-position PVZ. Let's see what these two actually come up with. IDrA, if I had to guess, probably going to be dropping that late hatch once again, just because it's so easy for a Protoss player to delay it with pylons and things like that. Basically, the Zerg just wants to ensure that those first 2 or 4 lings come out in time to kill off a pylon, so you can drop that late hatch. It's just a very natural part of IDra's gameplay at this point, and Ag should be well aware of that. Might not even waste the minerals and dropping the pylon because he knows that that hatch is going to be so late anyway. Ag actually going to be scouting the cross position first. I'm assuming this is a version of Shattered Temple where those close running positions are not possible. IDrA is actually scouting that close flying position very quickly, and if that is the case, if it is a map that disallows close running positions, then IDrA knows exactly where Ag is just through the process of elimination. There's only 2 possible other spawns, so close flying position or cross position, so IDrA knows where Ag is. Ag shows up in the cross position base of IDrA, and now they are both fully aware of what's going on. Ag last game went 1 gateway, basically just built a Zealot, a Stalker, and a Sentry, and then took a long time to basically do anything else. Wonder if he's going to be doing something similar to that and trying to get that Nexus up decently fast, or if he's got something totally different in mind. IDrA getting that spawning pool up at 15, just like I'd expect. Hatchery should be showing up after the first 2 lings are in production, sometime after those lings are in production. Probably going to be doing the same sort of thing we just saw on Metalopolis, getting that slow gas gathering, eventually hitting 100 and pulling those drones off of gas so that he can get the Zergling speed. Ag, on the other hand, has a single gateway up, still just 1 assimilator. I'm wondering when he'll put up that second one, if he's going to drop a pylon on the low ground and try to take a quick Nexus, or exactly what he's going to be trying to do. Shattered Temple, obviously, is pretty similar to Metalopolis when you think about it. These close flying positions can play out much the same way as Metalopolis. These actual third bases behind the destructible rocks can actually be easier to defend in some cases than those bases on Metalopolis, but other than that, you have your Xel'Naga towers right in the center. Metalopolis, there are 2 of them, but they're still both right in the center. There's 2 big avenues of attack. You can go right through the middle, or you can go through these sort of shady areas around the sides. I don't think our players will be using these shady areas too much in this game, just because they are at total cross positions. IDrA did finally drop that hatch right at around 20 supply, already building some more drones to replace those used to make his buildings. Second assimilator coming up now for Ag. So probably a very similar build order like we just saw. And since IDrA did go mass Ling Infester last game, I'm wondering if Ag is going to expect more of the same or expect something different out of Evil Genius's IDrA. He does have quite a good variety of playstyles now. He used to just be, Roach Hydra every single game, Roach Hydra macro, Roach Hydra macro. Now it's like he can do Roach busts. I've seen him do Baneling busts, even against Protoss. He still does Roach Hydra every once in a while, but he's definitely mixing in those Infestors. They are just such a crazy good unit. If you've ever watched Destiny's stream, you know how good the Infestors can be. Cat's also making super good use of those Infestors, and IDrA is no exception. He does make use of them whenever he can, and basically the games where he doesn't make Infestors are the ones you see him lose most often, so we'll see if he sticks to his guns. Ag actually going for that much faster 4-gate this time around instead of the Nexus, Stargate, 2-gate sort of weird, one-off build that we saw on Metalopolis. IDrA is doing very standard stuff here as well. Pulled all of his drones off of gas. Actually left 1 drone on gas while this Zergling speed gets researched. Makes me think roaches are a possibility. He's going to use a little more gas this time around than he did last game. Last game he actually went straight for that lair after getting that second base up. Might not do it this time around. He did actually spy a Stargate last time to trigger that lair, so we'll see what happens this time. Evolution Chamber coming up decently quick. Probably expecting more air out of Ag. It's always good to get an Evolution Chamber regardless, so you can start those upgrades rolling. Ag did drop a pylon on the low ground, and that can actually be a fake out or it can be a hint to your opponent. Looks like this Overlord has not spotted the probe, building a very, very close pylon to IDrA's base, so that's a good thing for AskJoshy. But anyway, this pylon on the low ground and a heavy sentry count can mean basically, alright, my opponent's going to drop a Nexus, or it could mean, alright, my opponent is building way more gates than he can actually support, and I'm going to die soon. So IDrA choosing to react with a Spinecrawler and a Roachwarren. Of course, more drones, just like he always does. He actually did an extractor trick, or did he lose a scouting overlord? I'm not sure where he would have lost the scouting overlord, so I'll assume he did an extractor trick there just to crank out one more supply of lings. Look at that, 2 lings in production. So he is supply blocked once again, as is AskJoshy. Zigzag. Anyway, here come the sentries and the zealots. IDrA already pretty well prepared, getting a second Spinecrawler up. He has his queen back here for support. These lings are at a safe distance and can be used. Oh wow, look at that. AskJoshy actually doing a good job dropping 5 force fields, but unfortunately the queen does manage to skitter away. If he had gotten that queen kill, I would say it would definitely be worth it, but unfortunately for him, just did not manage to get it. 61/60 now supply for IDrA. He just doesn't have any overlords available yet. 3 more in production right now. IDrA must have seen something that he didn't like. Yeah, I did actually spot that pylon there at the bottom spawn, so he's going to go take care of that pretty quickly here. +1 melee attacks coming up for him once again, just like we saw on Metalopolis, and AskJoshy actually did drop the Nexus. It wasn't just a blind 4-gate, I'm going to come try to kill you, balls to the wall, you know, stop making probes sort of thing. He actually is falling back on this natural expansion and a robotics facility, as well as that forge that you always like to see out of your Protoss players. Obviously can get +1 weapons, and since last time he was a little bit slower than IDrA on those upgrades, I would be surprised if he didn't make a note to keep those upgrades rolling this time, but you know, hasn't spent any money on it yet, instead going for a pretty quick robotics bay. And I always wonder about this decision from pro players to drop the tech in the more visible location. Like, I'm going to take IDrA's vision. He didn't actually see it, but if those lings got even all the way up to this pylon, you know, they would see this robotics bay, whereas he could just plop it down right next to the robotics facility and wait for IDrA to have to scout with an overlord. You know, that overlord would have to be sacrificed more or less to get all the way into the main and see that sort of tech. But when you drop it right here, just so close to where those links are. I've seen dark shrines, robotics facilities, robotics bays, all that stuff just dropped so close to the front lines, it always confuses me just a little. But you know, AskJoshy is the good player here, not myself, so I'll let him do whatever he wants. Hatchery coming down now at the gold base for IDrA. I like this move. He's actually also building a macro hatch once again. Like I said, any hatchery that basically isn't adjacent to minerals and gas can be used just purely for larvae. You can get 2 larva injects going and just have tons and tons of that larva available for mass lings, for example, just because they're a super cheap unit, or mass roaches. If you happen to be banking a lot of minerals and gas after an attack or a harass or something like that, you can remax very, very quickly with that macro hatch. Some players only like to build in front of bases just so they can have that option available later, but when you put a hatch like this inside of your main, it can be much, much harder for your opponent to go harass it or kill it or anything like that. Obviously, you don't have any drones that you need to protect either, and the hatchery does have quite a lot of HP, so plopping it here basically ensures that you're going to have that larva later on, instead of dropping it here, for example, where AskJoshy could easily just go kill it with a sort of a strike force or attack team or whatever you want to call it. Overlord flying over the main now, going to take a few shots from the Stalker, but it looks like Pneumatized Carapace has finished up, so he's safely going to reach all the way to the natural before these sentries tickle it to death. He did get a pretty good look at everything going on there. The Twilight Council coming up, it's about halfway done. I believe he did see the robotics bay churning away on extended thermal lances. There's also an Overlord well placed here by IDrA to see that first Colossus, see these destructible rocks taking some damage, and he floats it away off to the left a little bit just so AskJoshy doesn't catch it exposed there. So destructible rocks being destroyed. IDra's not actually destroying his own just yet. He's working off of 3 bases now, though, with that gold base fully saturated. Well, not fully saturated. Actually, I'm a little surprised he doesn't have more drones there, but he's got 10 more harvesters than AskJoshy total. He's got way more mineral income here and more gas income just because he's on 3 bases, and AskJoshy is only on those 2. But now he's opened up this corner. Probe gonna dance around, do its normal thing, probably build this Nexus next, popped up a couple of assimilators down. IDrA actually doing a big attack right here with these roaches. I don't know if this pylon actually has range to see. Yes, he does. He can actually see this rock's health going down if he is actually paying attention. So I'd be very surprised if he does drop the Nexus. IDrA right here with how many roaches? 23 roaches just lying in wait, and a whole bunch of speedlings with their +1 attack already finished. I wonder if he's going to try and crash headlong into that or just try to scare AskJoshy, send in a few Zerglings. Now AskJoshy is obviously clearly aware that this Destructible Rock is down as 2 Lings are biting their way through that pylon. A couple of Overlords out in the middle of nowhere getting popped very quickly by those Stalkers. IDrA capped at 176 over 176. He's actually got wow, IDrA has way more supply, but these Colossi can rip right through those Lings. Good force fields pinning out a lot of roaches and Lings. This actually is starting to look pretty good for AskJoshy, and yes, IDrA is actually going to have to retreat here or risk losing all those roaches. Pretty good exchange there for AskJoshy. Only 42 supply behind now, 40 supply or so. And IDrA already remaxing here with a lot more Lings and roaches. Well, not literally remaxing, getting right up to his supply cap once again, though. And melee attacks level 2, flyer attacks level 1, all being researched here. AskJoshy is chrono boosting out, plus 2 ground weapons, so he is doing a little bit better than he did in the first game with those upgrades. Oh, check this out, though. Corruptor's already out for IDrA. Infestation Pit on the way. These Corruptors are going to do so much damage to these Colossi, and the Corruption spell is used very well. All these force fields here pinning out the roaches. Really, the roaches are not in this fight at all. It's basically just Corruptors against this huge fighting force of AskJoshy, and I don't know if he's going to have enough Corruptors here to take out this last Colossus. Colossus really, there's no need to micro it away. He's either going to lose it or he's not. He should have been doing damage the entire time there. The Colossus does fall, but IDra's still got a 50 supply lead, and IDrA still backs off. He just doesn't want to deal with those force fields anymore, and he doesn't have any Corruptors to tackle any new Colossi that were to pop out. So I do like IDra's decision to fall back a little bit. He can get right back up to 200 here soon and try to go in again. 0-0 upgrades on the roaches, 2-0 upgrades on the Lings. Infestation Pit is done. Now we see the Hive starting to research and pathogen glands, as well as ground armor level 1s. Good choice there. Blink about to finish now for AskJoshy, and he's got 7 Stalkers coming in to make use of that. How many Stalkers total does he have? About 20 here against a huge force of roaches and Lings. Blink Stalkers can be very, very good against that composition until some infestors start to pop out, and here we see the first wave right there for IDrA. He is now finishing up that 4th base, so he's got 5 hatcheries total. He's got the gold base totally on his side, which AskJoshy does not. AskJoshy has walled off his top here, though, where those destructible rocks used to be. They're even on harvesters, so that's one enormous difference between the first game on Metalopolis and this one. AskJoshy is staying even on harvesters, pretty close to even on bases, and he's got his tech up successfully. He didn't even have that Colossus out in the first game, but now he's got 2, and he's making more all the time. 3 probes in production at a time. He's got to feel a lot better now than he did in that first game, but IDrA is max. What is he doing to make use of his money? He's getting Ventral Sacs, Neural Parasite, and Ground Armor level 1. That Hive is going to be done in just a moment, so he can actually plop down that Ultralisk Cavern or go up to a Greater Spire. Let's see which one he actually chooses to do. Here come all the roaches from IDrA. Actually, oh, they're getting a little bit separated. I don't know what sort of control group fiasco that was, but he just lost 3 or 4 roaches there for no reason. That's got to sting a little bit. Maybe he's clearing up supplies so he can make more infestors. Either way, it's not going to affect him too much. He's got plenty of money to remax right there. Creep Tumor's starting to take some damage now as this Observer just floats around happily, helping out his Protoss fighting buddies. All these Blink Stalkers, here we go, against 5 infestors, though the infestors actually managed to escape. Colossi do rip through them pretty quickly, though. These fungal growths landing on the Colossi do eat through the shields a little bit, but the Stalkers really are what we need to pay attention to. Here come a couple of infested Swarm Eggs, which is kind of interesting. Good round of force fields there from AskJoshy, and this Roach Concave is actually too close to AskJoshy for him to stay alive really well. I do see some pretty good blinks going off now, and now these Stalkers have a bit of a concave. These Colossi really are doing the bulk of the damage here. I don't see any Corruptors in the sky. He basically switched hard away from Corruptors into Infestors, and you can see the difference here. These 3 Colossi just ripping through those Roaches and Infestors instead of the Corruptors using their Corruption skill and just taking those guys out. So now we have nothing left except Blink Stalkers and Colossi. AskJoshy is evening up the supply very quickly. He's got another Colossus and 6 more Stalkers entering the fray. IDra's Roaches really aren't standing up too well against these 2-0 units of AskJoshy. The Roaches only have 0-1 right now, and 10 Roaches in production, but AskJoshy's still staying alive with that Blink, keeping his Colossi at a good range away from those Roaches, and he's just going to continue this assault. It looks like AskJoshy's actually taken a supply lead, 153 against 128. IDrA with his lovely commentary. This is such a joke. IDrA has left the game, and without a GG, AskJoshy takes game number 2 right there on Shattered Temple. So he is going to force a game 3. Let's see whether Evil Genius is IDrA or QxG.Agh will take Game 3. Let's go see. Let's go watch. Let's go do it right now.